It wasn't taken by war. It was signed away. In 1884, beneath the shadow of German ships, a treaty turned Togo into a protectorate, and for many, freedom became a memory. In the sun-kissed cradle of Togoland's coastal plains, a foreign pen promised alliance but delivered chains. In 1884, the German explorer Gustav Nachtigall, sent by Chancellor Bismarck amid Europe's sudden colonial thirst, arrived on the West African coast. He signed a treaty with local chiefs, like Mlapa III at Bagida, officially establishing Togoland as a German protectorate. It was a seemingly small stretch of coast, claimed in the frenzy of the scramble for Africa, but its impact was immense. The ink on that paper divided communities, redrew ancient boundaries, and replaced local sovereignty with foreign rule. Social bonds that had been forged over centuries began to fray under the strain of conquest's cruel hand. But what aching desperation whispered through the winds to seal this fateful pact? To understand this, we need to look at the world these coastal communities inhabited. These were societies of farmers, traders, and fishermen, bound by complex networks of kinship and commerce. Their lives were tied to the land, the sea, and the trade routes that crisscrossed the region. However, the late 19th century was a time of intense pressure. European powers were not the only threat. Local rivalries between different chiefdoms were escalating, often fueled by the lucrative but brutal slave trade which had scarred the region for generations. The arrival of Gustav Nachtigall in July 1884 presented a complicated choice. Some chiefs saw an opportunity. They were caught between powerful neighboring kingdoms and the disruptive influence of other European traders. An alliance with Germany seemed to offer protection from these rivals. It was a fragile dream of stability in a world that felt increasingly chaotic. With hearts pounding with the terror of submitting to new masters, they were also driven by the hope that this treaty would secure their people's future. Each signature was a calculated risk, a concession they hoped would be a victory snatched from the jaws of despair. They were not simply passive victims. They were leaders making impossible decisions with the information and options available to them. But the protection they were promised came at a staggering cost. By 1885, just a year later, Germany's colonial ambitions were in full swing. The Protectorate was not a partnership of equals. It was the beginning of an era of economic exploitation and political subjugation. German colonial rule brought new laws, new taxes, and forced labor. The so-called model colony was built on a foundation of control and extraction, with little regard for the well-being of the Togolese people. The infrastructure that was built, like railways and ports, was designed primarily to get cash crops like cotton and coffee out of the country and into German markets. The cost of this progress lingered in every family, a lament for the independence that had slipped away like sand through their fingers. This era of fragile pacts and broken promises turned interconnected dreams into shattered hopes. It's a story that echoed across the continent, as local resilience was met with the overwhelming force of European imperialism. But the story of Togoland's colonization isn't just one of victimization. It's also a story of adaptation, negotiation, and resistance. Even under German rule, the people of Togo found ways to preserve their culture, to push back against the harshest policies, and to dream of a future where they would once again control their own destiny. So, was the Protectorate simply the result of Bismarck's grand colonial plots? Or do buried chronicles and oral histories tell a more complex story of local agency, desperate choices, and the unintended consequences of seeking protection? The formal Protectorate has long since vanished, but its legacy remains etched into the land and the memory of its people. The full story of what was lost and what was gained in that fateful agreement of 1884 is still being uncovered. In Togoland's betrayed shores, what untold heartaches and hidden histories still guard the memory of that pact? I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections on this complex moment in history. Share them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And if you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the past.